digital world. Happy New Year. That's right. It's the beginning of 2020. A brand new decade. Another... How many years are in a decade? 10? Another 10 years of movies. Movies and TV shows and celebrities and gossip and all that. A lot of content coming your way. Hopefully, through Spliced In Later. I'm coming back to you sooner than expected because I thought, why not start the new year off with a bang and get a review out to you for something in the cinemas that you can all go and see now that it is officially available for you. This movie I saw quite a few weeks ago, actually. I managed to score tickets to a red carpet screening. I've just realised that when I wiggle my fingers into quotations, you can't actually see them listening, so you'll just have to take my word for it that I wiggled my fingers when I said red carpet screening. What it actually was just an advanced screening. A whole bunch of movies that were coming out on Boxing Day or New Year's Day. There was one small chance on a Sunday on December 14th or 15th, depending what the actual day was, where you could go and check out one of these movies. There were a lot of movies to choose from, but there was a specific movie that I was pretty keen to see. It was on my list for 2020. I knew a couple of friends were pretty keen to see this movie as well, and that's the one I picked. I've waited weeks for it to officially be available to the public here in Australia. January 1st was officially released in the cinemas, and I'm here today to talk about The Gentleman. I'm going to start off by saying that I love Guy Ritchie films, especially Guy Ritchie's British crime films. It won't be in this episode, but I would hopefully like one day in the near future, along with everything else that I've promised over the last couple months, I would like to have a sit down and have a real in-depth look at Guy Ritchie and his British crime films. What makes his films so enjoyable to watch, what makes them unique, why some are better than others, why some are worse, the whole shebang. That's going to be a really fun conversation that I hopefully will be able to bring to you sometime in the near future. But for right now, we're just going to stick to The Gentleman. Just give you one of my simpler reviews, bit of a shorter episode today, but just to give you an idea of what I think about it and whether you should go see it. But I will start by saying if you're unfamiliar with Guy Ritchie films, there are a small sampling that you can have a look at before checking out The Gentleman, the most obvious of which being Snatch. Snatch is definitely the most famous of Guy Ritchie's films. It was on that poster that I've mentioned many times in our episodes here of the 100 Films Bucket List. I have a new book, 1000 Films You Must See Before You Die, and Snatch is in there too. So all in all, it's a pretty big deal. It's a very good film. I would concur 100%. It is the perfect example if you want to know exactly what type of director Guy Ritchie is before going into The Gentleman. If you want to see at least one thing. Guy Ritchie is very unique in terms of his storytelling. He believes in a lot of non-linear perspectives of his stories. He'll start in the middle of a story, he'll flip back to the start, he'll go to the end, he'll come back to the middle for a bit, he'll go to the end, he'll come to the start. He's all over the place. But when it all comes together, it makes for a particularly well-crafted story that is entertaining, hilarious, shocking in many cases, and just a good time at the movies. Snatch is also specifically British. It's got a lot of British terms, a lot of British actors, a lot of British themes, jokes, that sort of thing. The criminal underworld for British gangsters apparently is a very funny place. Very violent, very over the top, very loud. Guy Ritchie does a lot of incredible camera work, the way stories are told, cutting between two different people at different points of time. The characters presented all have this very distinctive personality that makes them specifically unique. Again, this is going to be talking about The Gentleman, not Snatch, but you've clearly heard of Snatch, it's out there. Have a look, see what you think before going into The Gentleman if you want a clue. You don't have to, but it's there. And my recommendation, it's worth looking in, just to make sure. Guy Ritchie has taken on a lot of other films more recently that aren't to his usual British crime shtick, but he has kept his distinctive style of directing for these other films, which is why I think they haven't been doing too well at the box office and why they're not being particularly well received, because people just aren't ready for the style that he brings to it. For example, he released a movie in 2017 called King Arthur, Legend of the Sword. It was another spin on the King Arthur mythos. I love King Arthur. I love King Arthur movies, and I did enjoy this film. But it is a very Guy Ritchie King Arthur film. There's a lot of jump cuts, non-linear storytelling, wacky characters, running back and forth, explosions, all sorts of stuff. And for someone that was probably just going in for a old-timey King Arthur, sword in stone, Knights of the Round Table, usual thing, that's not what they got. And I think it disappointed a lot of people. Also cost a lot of money to make, so it didn't bring a lot of money back in, so that's the end of that whole King Arthur thing for a while. But good work, Guy Ritchie. I had fun. Thank you for that. He also had a crack at the remake of Aladdin, which people generally expected to not be good. I thought it was okay. It certainly doesn't hold a candle to the original Aladdin, but I think there was a lot of criticism directed at the film before people even saw it, whether it was Will Smith being the genie, Guy Ritchie being the right person for the Aladdin story, all that stuff. It's certainly not for everybody. If you don't like Aladdin, I understand. But again, I don't think Guy Ritchie was the right director for the Aladdin story. I enjoyed the zaniness that he brought to the film, but overall it didn't really fit what I think is what makes Aladdin so good. And then on the other hand, you've got The Man from U.N.C.L.E., which he directed in 2015. It was a remake of an old TV show. Again, I've not seen The Man from U.N.C.L.E., so I don't know, but I'm pretty sure the show wasn't at all like the way Guy Ritchie shoots his movies. Again, with the wacky characters and the non-linear storytelling and the British humour and that sort of stuff there. I had a great time with The Man from U.N.C.L.E. It's one of my favourite films, I think. But again, didn't do very well at the box office. It was not particularly well received, whether it was because of people who enjoyed The Man from U.N.C.L.E. TV show and weren't happy with the result they got on screen. Who can say? But where Guy Ritchie always excels is his specific British crime comedy caper films. Snatch, Lock, Stock and Two Smoking Barrels, Rock and Roller. Those are the type of films you should really have a look at to decide if you are a Guy Ritchie fan. I've laid down the foundations for Guy Ritchie. Hopefully I'll come back in the future and we can go more in depth. But for now, what do I think of The Gentleman? I loved it. I thought it was a fantastic time in the movie theatres. I'm very excited to see The Gentleman because it's one of the few movies coming out in 2020 that's not a remake, a reboot, a sequel, a prequel, anything like that. It's an original concept, an original idea, and I'm assuming it's not being made with plans for sequels. It's just a self-contained story that you will only have to see this one movie to see. It is the closest to the high bar that Guy Ritchie set with Snatch than he has ever achieved since releasing Snatch. If you are a fan of Snatch, you are going to love this movie. If you like crime capers and crime gangsters, you're going to like this movie. Once again, Guy Ritchie kills it with the way he tells the story. His non-linear is really at point here. He's telling the story in both flashbacks and flash forwards. It's all over the place, but I never once felt like I was lost at all. I knew exactly what was going on all the time. I knew who all the characters were. Even the quick cuts to fake you out on certain things that were happening didn't throw me too much that I couldn't follow along with the story because my head was spinning or anything. I knew who everybody was. I knew what everybody wanted, except for the people who were obviously keeping their intentions hidden, but I was intrigued to see where we were going with those characters. Essentially, The Gentleman is about Mickey Pearson, played by Matthew McConaughey. He's running a marijuana crime company in England, and there's just a bit of a power vacuum, a power struggle. Whether he's on his way out or whether others are coming in with their own products, it's just a fight to see who's going to be top dog by the end of the movie. It looks incredible. The way it's shot is just classic Guy Ritchie. The camera moving fast, twirling around all the different actors, fast-paced in one scene 1 minute and then somewhere else the next, is just great. And also the way he writes the film is just tremendous. He has a fantastic way of writing dialogue for the specific crazy, kooky characters that he introduces in this movie. And when they're talking, your attention is held. You are completely wrapped with everything that is being said. You cannot look away from the screen. And when something shocking happens, you audibly gasp because it has taken you by surprise because you've been so invested in what people are talking about in the scene that the sudden shock of a character death or someone just bursting in for a wall completely takes you by surprise, which is just fantastic. What it comes down to with The Gentleman is the characters, and that's where this film is really good. There are some crazy characters that I just enjoyed getting behind and loved watching them on screen every minute. Now, the movie is starring Matthew McConaughey as Mickey Pearson. I did enjoy him in the movie, but if I have to have one drawback for this film, it's that I didn't care as much about him as I think I should have, with him being the main character. Whether that's because all the other actors around him were stealing the spotlight with their characters, it's hard to say. It also feels like he was just in less scenes than certain other characters. He was good when he was on though, he was enjoyable to watch. There was one scene where he lost his cool and got very angry, which completely scared me, which was fantastic to see. But in terms of my favourite actors in this movie, I've got it narrowed down to 3 of them. First of all, there's Charlie Hunnam. Charlie Hunnam is a favourite of mine. He has a voice which is just lovely to hear. I don't know, I've heard of that ASMR stuff where just certain voices can give you the chills. Charlie Hunnam has one of those voices that is just wonderful to listen to. He really gets involved in his characters. He's funny when he needs to be. He's charming when he needs to be. He's dangerous when he needs to be. There was a point where I was wondering what his purpose in the movie was. He seemed to be connected to the story without actually being involved in the story. But once he actually takes part in the main caper that's going on and moving around with the other characters, it is a delight to see. So Charlie Hunnam did a fantastic job. Also a favourite of mine was Colin Farrell. Again, he's not too much in the movie, but he plays a character called Coach, who's sort of like the muscle in certain areas of the film. He comes and goes, he's not there all the time, but when he is holding a scene, he is holding it. He is a delight to watch. He's friendly and threatening, but he's also a nice guy, which is not something you come across in these crime caper films. You feel like he is a good person that you could go down and have a beer with at the pub, and he'd also have your back if you were suddenly being attacked by gangsters, which was great to see. And of course, Colin Farrell oozes the Irish accent, the Irish charm. Always a delight to see. But our number 1 actor in this film goes to Hugh Grant. Hugh Grant plays a character called Fletcher. Now, if you are familiar with Hugh Grant in Notting Hill and About a Boy and Bridget Jones's Diary and all that stuff, think again, this is a completely different Hugh Grant. This is a Hugh Grant that is chewing the scenery, that is oozing this delightfully obtuse personality. He looks like he is having absolute fun with the role, which is great to see. He had the most laughs for me in the film. His puns and his wisecracks never felt out of place as well. It always felt like they had a purpose to everything he was saying. He was just absolutely hilarious and a wonder to watch, and I was really happy because you don't see Hugh Grant in too many movies anymore. I mean, he was all over the place back in the day. But it's good to see that not only is he still in these movies, but he can do all wide range of characters. This is the most un-Hugh Grant-like I have seen Hugh Grant, and it was fantastic to see, which was great. The film is a lovely length as well. It is not too long. It is easy to watch in, I think it's 90 to 100 minutes, so it's not a film that requires you to sit there for 3 hours like a Martin Scorsese epic and just have to commit to the film. I do maintain that the first time you watch it, you need to be paying attention just so you can follow what's going along. But after that, it's really simple to understand what the plot is. So this is a good movie for later on if you want to put in the background while you're doing something else. I find that impossible because I can't not pay attention to a movie when it's on. But I hear that certain other people just like to have background films on, and their favourite background films sometimes give them the best when they're doing their homework or cooking or whatever. So this would be a good film for that as well. I think if you're desperate for that British crime gangster flick that you haven't got in a while, not since Snatch, or you're just looking for something like that. If you're looking for something that's not Star Wars, that's not Jumanji, that's not Disney, this is a nice change of pace, I think. I think this is a unique cinema experience that we're not getting as much as we used to in the past. I would like to say I hope we get more of them in the future, but I mean, who am I to talk? I've written down so many films to see this year, and they're all related to a franchise or a reboot or something like that, and I'm not complaining. But it is nice when a little gem like this, that wasn't really on my radar till about a few weeks out before it was coming out, to go in with absolutely no idea what the film's going to be about, have a great time and come away completely thrilled. So yeah, it's a simple review, not taking too long on it because I can't really talk too much about the plot again without spoiling it, but I will say that it is worth seeing. It is classic Guy Ritchie. If you love Guy Ritchie, you'll like this film. If you love Snatch, you'll like this film. If you're a fan of Hugh Grant, Colin Farrell, Matthew McConaughey, worth seeing. If you liked Henry Golding in Crazy Rich Asians, he's in here as well. Wonderful dialogue, wonderful personality from all the characters, excellent use of non-linear storytelling and unreliable narrator, and just very funny as well. Very funny when it needs to be, very serious when it needs to be, a lot of action, a lot of gunplay, running, fantastic, great stuff. The Gentleman, for me, gets 9 out of 10. As I said, it doesn't quite reach the high standards that Snatch has. Snatch is a 10 out of 10. But it's close, it's got there, and it has been a great start for 2020 movies, I think. So if you're looking for a great start to 2020 movies, highly recommend The Gentleman. And there we are. First review of 2020 done. I hope you've enjoyed listening. I'm excited to say that over the next few weeks I will be going to the cinemas quite a bit. There are a lot of movies on the docket, starting in January. You know the old saying about January, either it's a surprise hit or it's just a month to dump your movies that people expect aren't going to be particularly good. Me liking everything, it's hard to say whether anything will disappoint me, but January supposedly is the month where it might happen. So tune in and we'll let you know if these many movies that are coming out are worth seeing, or if it's worth staying at home and watching Snatch maybe, or a Guy Ritchie film. I'll try and keep the episodes coming as frequent as I have been. Normally you'll get your Tuesday episode, unless of course I need a day, I need a minute. I got so many ideas spinning around in this head, but I gotta work on execution. I gotta decide exactly what's more important, what needs to come first, what might need a couple episodes to really hammer out. I know I promised that Marvel month. It was gonna be this month, but things are just getting away from me, so we'll see. Keep an eye out though, it is coming. But keep an eye out Thursdays. Thursdays, those reviews are going to be coming fast and thick, so buckle in. I'm excited. I hope you're excited too. And one last thing before I sign off. I know 99.9% of my viewership are in Australia, and I just want to say that at the moment, Australia is suffering through some pretty horrific shit involving bushfires and air quality. I just want to say to everybody out there, I hope everyone is safe. Please be safe going outside with all the smoke in the air. Keep an eye if you've got asthma or anything like that. If you've got families in the thick of it with the bushfires, I hope everybody is okay. I'm sending out my well wishes and condolences to everybody. And I highly recommend, if you haven't already, find somewhere to donate some money, whether it's to the firefighters or to any first aid. Things are pretty rough at the moment. It's not getting any better anytime soon. If there's one thing I'd like to do as well is just raise awareness for this, or just to let everyone know that you're not alone. Australia, we're all in this together, and hopefully we will come out the other side, and hopefully we can move forward and do something about this ridiculous climate change, because it is a real thing and it is happening, and if we don't do something soon, we are quite literally, one swear word for the episode, fucked. Alright, thank you all for listening. I'll be back hopefully next week, either an episode, a standard episode, or a review. We'll see what's coming, but I hope you'll join me for that. You've been spliced in later. Adios, muchachos. I'll catch you next time.